Okay, so we should be live on my page now.
On your page, okay. Oops. Oops.
Give a few moments for some friends joining us to say hello.
Public. Yep. Okay, now let me shut down this video. Okay.
Yeah.
You again.
I see us there. Did you get it?
Yeah, I shared it on my page.
All right, on, cool. All right, so we'll see what friends are gonna join in and say, hey. We're gonna have so much fun here, and I'll just change the title so people know that it's us and they can start to tune in. Beautiful. How did it go with you were living in the volcano in Hawaii and then you were moved over to Australia since in between our last session, right? What's happening?
No, the volcano's on an entirely different island, so
Okay, you were fine then. You were totally safe there. But you moved no less, right?
we just went to Australia for a
Just a
month because
little.
that's where my wife, her entire
Oh,
family is, and friends, and
cool.
we just went there for a month. She hadn't been back to Australia since she moved here, and it was almost 2 years since she'd seen her peeps over there. And she has a young niece and nephew, so yeah, we wanted to spend some serious time over there, but it had nothing to do with the volcano. And since we back, like I don't think about it. I don't. There's no signs in the air that there's a volcano because it's so far away from here. You'd have to be really sensitive to be feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, I think I feel the volcano.
We live on Mount Haleakala, which is a dormant volcano, not extinct. They say it's going to erupt again someday. And it's known as the heart chakra of the planet. That's what Bashar calls it.
Yes.
It looks like Mars when you go to the crater and you visit,
Wow.
like you're on the surface of Mars. So we live there and 12 minutes from Oprah's house.
Wow, that sounds like a great neighborhood.
Yeah. I drive by the other day.
Oh, do you ever see her out there? I would be like stalking.
Just that one time. We walk by her house all the time because there's this beautiful walk on the road. She basically bought like all the property on this one road.
Oh,
And so a lot of people come and they park on the side of the road and we walk up and down because there's beautiful ocean views on this side and there's horses and Mount Haleakala view on this side. It's really great. It's a beautiful walk.
so cool. I can't wait to get out there. I think I'll be living there in a few years, somewhere around there.
Most of us wind up here at some point.
Yeah, totally.
Ojai, Sedona, Bali,
Yeah,
Maui,
get back to the vortex.
all the hot spots.
You got to get up there. So let's get in here. We see some great friends are joining us on Facebook. I'm going to hit record so we actually get live on the podcast and introduce you. And for those of you guys all tuning in, this is part of my podcast, Visionary Souls, which you can check out on iTunes and all the different channels and check it out. And Daniel and I last did an interview here over a few months ago, actually. So it's literally been lifetimes. And this is going to be a really beautiful jam. We'll see what comes forth. But generally, we're going to be speaking about Ascension, energy upgrades, and just really what is occurring right now on the planet, and how can we best support ourselves in embodying our multidimensional selves and feeling our best. There's actually a lot that is coming through me at this moment to share to that end, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit record. Here we go. Hello, welcome to Visionary Souls, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you. And today I have an amazing guest who you might remember from an earlier episode, Daniel Scranton, who has been a verbal channel. That's right, channeling all sorts of amazing beings like the creators, the Hathors, the founders, Archangel Michael, all sorts of angels, Ophelia the fairy, Kuan Yin, Yeshua, Buddha, Arcturian Council, 9D Arcturian Council, all sorts of amazing beings and energies. He's been channeling since 2010. He has hundreds of live and online group events, private sessions, and supports people all over the world in really just navigating what he calls the shift, navigating through these very exciting and yet very turbulent times, that we could be having as a collective and on the individual level, certainly during this shift. And most recently, I want to congratulate Daniel on releasing his new book, appropriately also referring to the shift. So Daniel, welcome back. It's so great to be with you again. I'm so grateful for your presence and just to be able to share with you. It's so much fun. How are you feeling today?
A little tired, but
Yeah.
very good overall, emotionally. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. Our last episode, for those of you guys tuning in, can kind of listen to that for the whole background and Daniel's amazing story of how he, fell into channeling and was really into, I remember us talking about the Abraham cruises and, I remember you being you said something really funny in our first talk that was about, just like, it was like the last thing you could have imagined, becoming a channel in the way that you are now, just based on kind of how you grew up. Yeah. This is like total contrast, which I love.
Yeah, it was completely unexpected, for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And yet here we are, right? And let's get right into it. So what is your take on, I mean, maybe this is a really big question, but let's just go there. What's your take on, this shift and ascension, energy upgrades, and I want to just bring it very present to like this moment in time, because I personally feel like we're in such a potent moment, like between all these eclipses and just, I would say 2018, generally this whole year has been one of the most turbulent growth experiences in my recent memory, right? There's been so much healing, so much triggering, so much just like, so much release happening. I know it's always, no matter how painful it is, it's always to help me be more illuminated in my truth and my light and more love. And yet, man, it's hard sometimes. So what's going on?
Yeah, I think we're replaying Atlantis right now before we finalize this thing. Like we're going through a very similar type of really polarized experience of sides, like people taking sides. I mean, there probably used to be a time in American politics when Democrats and Republicans kind of, liked each other and like talk to each other and work together. And look at us now with our 24-hour news cycle and people yelling at each other on television screens about, who's right and who's wrong all the time. It's really, and so now we're even seeing that coming into the spiritual realm, because of course we're not immune to any of this. So we see the schism between the people who like Corey Good and the people who like Stephen Greer, and now David Wilcock is leaving Gaia, and who knows what's going on, because it just seems like the more we become more of like a global family as the spiritual awakened people, the more we're playing out all of our issues within that realm. So we're becoming as divided within a group of people who really should be coming together and should, want all the same things. But I think whenever we get up in our heads about what we believe and what we think is true, and I mean, even people email me and they're like, what do you think about all these people saying the event's going to happen in July? And I'm like, just cool, cool down. It's not going to be July. It's not going to, it wasn't on the solstice. And so there's a lot of excitement too around the shift and what people are now calling the event. I had heard Corey Good talk about over a year ago, where he called it a solar event or a solar sneeze. And then all these people who are in the QHHT realm are saying they're just calling it an event. And this one practitioner in particular named Allison Coe has all these clients who are coming out of their trance state, or when they're in their trance state, saying this event is coming. And so then, and it gets all this excitement going, but then everyone wants to happen now. And so we're dealing with our stuff at the same time. A lot of us just want out. I think that's, if you want the event or the ascension experience to happen sooner than later, then there's something going on in your life that you really just don't want to deal with, whether it's money, relationship, body, any type of issue that you've got, past life trauma coming up, or whatever is coming up for you. There's something that you want to escape. If you can't just like sit back and say, you know what, let's have the best journey that we can have to the fifth dimension. Let's let it all unfold. If it has to be now, then you should be looking at why. Why does it have to be now? I mean, and I realize that I'm living a great life, so it's easy for me to be like, you know, calm down. It's cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have my moments too, and we all do, where we just want, you know, we just don't want to pay taxes anymore, and we just don't want our food to be poisoned anymore, and we just don't want chemtrails anymore, and you know,
just the basics.
Yeah, you know, I just don't want to deal with TSA anymore when I want to travel. Like I just want to be able to pack a fucking suitcase and go. You know, I don't want to have to like think about and then have to get to the airport so early because the line is so long because they've got to paw their hands through my food, you know, which I travel with because you can't just
there's no food to get.
Just go to the airport and be like, oh, I'll take the organic section over here, you know.
There's so much that I want to unpack just based on what you shared. And no, but it's just, I resonate, you know, God, I was just sharing with you that like my day today has been it's just been interesting. You know, I have a very interesting relationship with time, and I've realized time is such an illusion. And today has been one of those days where I've been in like a lifetime of a day, and I've experienced many different iterations of like my different facets of identity, right? And something that came up actually in an Akashic record reading I was sharing with a client today, which was so beautiful. I'm so blessed to do that work because it just literally plugs me back into the truth, and I'm in that light of unconditional love, which is the essence of my being. And it just feels so good. It's like quick remembrance, you know, back to your soul. And something that came up in that reading, which really was so healing for me, alludes to what you mentioned about Atlantis. And actually in that timeline that came up in the reading, it was about Lemuria, and it was a very similar, or maybe it was Atlantis. I wasn't given the name of the actual time frame. It wasn't necessarily relevant to mention. I resonated with it as a Lemurian timeline, but the point being that this individual I was doing the reading for myself, and I had the feeling of like thousands, not millions, but thousands of people around the world at this moment are living out like concurrent timelines from those ancient civilizations in which our souls were incarnated at that time to be in positions of what the message I got was, you know, people in positions of leadership who in that experience of being leaders or builders of those ancient societies incurred certain karmic wounds and soul contracts of specifically guilt and shame and a really like, I would say, disempowered feeling, right, of like being able to be themselves, like a strange relationship, an abused or like tainted relationship with power, having a fear of fully utilizing their authentic power. If that makes sense. It was just really clear. It was like, oh my God, we're all just running this timeline unconsciously or consciously. It's just being projected in all these ways. And it's this extreme contrast, like the extreme contrast, which can be enough sometimes, you know, for me, even today, I'm like, man, I could really see how I could really choose to take this trigger and, you know, make a whole big drama about it and really like go off the deep end, you know. I mean, and that's part of my wiring. I was talking to my client about, and maybe you resonate with this, that, yeah, like I can feel insane sometimes because the society in which I am currently incarnated in is actually insane. Like it's insane. So many facets of our society are actually crazy and insane. And yet to feel like it doesn't make any sense, even though that is my absolute truth, it's like, I could judge myself for being insane, for not understanding it, right?
Yeah, I was watching a clip of Stephen Colbert recently on his late night talk show, and he was talking to his guest, I forget who it was, and he's like, yeah, those people in Iceland, you know, they really believe in elves. Like he's like, yeah, like not just, fictional fairy tale, but like they really believe that elves exist. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm one of those people. I don't even live in Iceland, and I'm one of those people. And yet he was just talking about his Catholicism with this person, and it's like that's as crazy to me as believing in elves. Not every aspect of Christianity is crazy. Obviously, there are some really good things in there, but the stuff about eternal damnation, and you could live a life of pure evil and then just ask for Jesus's forgiveness on your deathbed and all is forgiven. But if you're born and you never get baptized and you die, like it's crazy. It is crazy. And I think sometimes like as much of my beliefs that I feel are true, not just true for me, but like true, then I also realize how crazy it all is. Like I do realize how crazy it is to make a leap of faith that we believe in things that we've never seen or experienced ourselves.
Mm.
But enough of us believe in it, and then we don't believe in it because we were brought up in it. That's the cool thing, is that it wasn't indoctrinated into us. We weren't taken to a building every Sunday or Saturday and told this is how it is. And that's not why we believe what we believe. We believe what we believe because of how it feels.
Mm.
And there's so many of us now that it's hard, and having all these experiences. I'm a conscious channel, so when people are talking to the beings I'm channeling, I can hear what they're saying. And people are having just amazing, incredible experiences with ETs and with their abilities coming online, their clairvoyance or clairaudience, these different things people are speaking light languages. Like I thought 7 years ago, I thought nobody else was speaking light languages. Except for me, Wendy Kennedy, Tom Kenyon, and a few other people. But like now it seems like everybody is.
Yep. Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, I have a good friend that we're both teachers on this cool platform called the Fuel Tank, and she does a whole light language activation each month, and people are so into it. And I personally really resonate with it because it just, that practice, which I actually have found incredibly challenging to get into because it requires such a dismantling of the ego to just like really be like fully detached from how does this sound? How does this look? It's just so not about any of that stuff. It's like, how does this feel? And how do I allow this transmission to come through me? And yeah, and how good can this feel? And I've definitely loved listening to your light language transmissions. I think I was just listening to one on the plane recently, the Mayan lifetime integration one. I'm like, yes, give me all the integration. I need it all.
Suddenly it seems like the Mayans have become much more relevant,
Yeah.
They're like, the story is not clear exactly on whether they came here from outer space and landed there in the Mexico region of Mexico, and then had their time there. And some of them obviously stayed, but it seems like some of them ascended and some stayed. And it's just it's like the most recent, I think, civilization where things were really, really high frequency.
Yeah, I've been feeling that recently, that there's just so much, this notion of history as we understand it, and talk about indoctrination and conditioning, that like there's just so, history again is like, whose history are we talking about, right? And yet there's been so much of it that has been, first of all, destroyed, but also just like so controlled, right? As an actual tool of maintaining power and influence, right? And also like I tune in, especially in the Akashic records or even in meditation, it's like just feeling all of these different beings that have inhabited planet Earth in timelines that we're not, in science able to describe, like hundreds of thousands of years ago. And they weren't documenting history in the way that we have found it necessary to document history with a written language, or, passing down even like there's just so many different elements that were in play, particularly, communicating more telepathically and not having a need for so many of the little like minutia that we would think that we need now to like keep track of everything and keep control of things, right?
A lot of that information is stored in crystals too.
Mm,
So,
yes.
like New Agers are really attracted to crystals, maybe don't know why all the time. We have to keep buying more crystals, but they contain
Yeah.
in them, and it's like it's getting through to us even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Well, it's funny because our computers and our iPhones are all made with crystals. The circuit board, whatever it is, the microchip, the processor, I don't even know what it is, but it's like there's crystals are used to build that, like those things, to carry those frequencies through to like create our whole internet. And right, I don't know the specifics there, but yeah, they're the original software, the original technology.
Wow.
Absolutely. I want to ask you, I love communicating with you because I just feel like full on energy bath occurring, just like, it's like so great. Thank you. Feels so good, So let's just keep it like, let's take it really simple, for anyone who's listening, wherever you are on your path. Yeah, ascension is a real thing and everybody feels it. I'm pretty convinced that, I wrote this book, The Empath Experience. I know that not every single human being is maybe wired in this body in this lifetime to be fully empathic, like to be a full on, like open emotional center empath, where you're absorbing energy and emotions of other people all the time.
Right.
Yet, I do believe that every single human being does, in fact, have the capacity to feel energy at a very like deep extent. And I understand that at this time, particularly since 2011, 2012, there's been such a epic increase in frequency of the planet in terms of the electromagnetic field of the planet that has definitely increase, like people's sensitivity has increased as a result, and so people are suddenly like having these awakening moments and feeling more sensitive and feeling more reactive maybe to things that never used to bother you or you never used to have an awareness of. And certainly this year, 2018, I'm feeling like, oh my God, we're on an accelerated healing ascension journey right now. Like since the beginning of this year, it's like here, especially for the light leaders and the people really called to be of service and to clear this stuff, this material that's in the way of being fully present to enjoy this moment, like just being right here, right now, right? Like being in communion with spirit, which is only possible right now. So I'd love to know your thoughts about that, particularly just this timeline of like this year and, leading up to the event, the shift, etc. Just any insights that you have about, well, the thing that comes to mind is, how people can support themselves but also like, yeah, just wisdom that you feel is important to share about this whole experience, and that I know a lot of your medicine that I receive certainly is about connecting to our higher dimensional selves, our soul families throughout other time frames and dimensions, and just always choosing to tune into all the love that there is in every moment and all the love that we are, that we're not alone, we're not meant to suffer, we're not actually meant to be having like such a hard time that we want to check out, and just like, we're being called to rise into such amazing leadership and really embodiment of our higher, I believe, our higher dimensional or higher consciousness selves, our soul selves, right?
Totally. I think that the energies, as we refer to the energies, it's good to explain what we mean by that. There are energies that come to us from our sun, which is obviously really important in our life here on Earth. The sun is called, the word for sun is soul in Spanish, solar system. It is our soul, in a sense, in physical form, the universal soul of humanity. So the sun's sending us all sorts of energies. The solar flares affect us, the solar storms affect us. All of the energy that comes off the sun, and especially during times when there's more light. So those of us in the northern hemisphere experience the summer solstice, more light, we get activated. Now, the earth is, as you said, is also upping her game, so that the energies coming off of the earth are higher frequency. So it's really good to get outside, get away from the computer and the phone, get outside, connect with Gaia and the sun. And then you have energies from the photon belt. So our entire solar system, when we were kids, we were taught the sun's here and the planets go like this. And there was no talk about where the entire solar system was going. But now we know the entire solar system is going up. It's moving through space at something like 50,000 miles an hour. I could be wrong. That number could very well be wrong. But some enormous clip like that we're moving through space. So we're actually moving through a band or a belt of photonic energy that I think makes a circle. And as we go through different pockets of it. There's different periods where there's more intensity of this energy. So those energies are affecting us as well. Then you have physical extraterrestrial beings who are helping us out using God knows what type of technology. We know that they're experimenting on us, but some of those experiments have helped us. You mentioned Lemuria. I get confused because there's a place on Maui called Lemuria. Okay, they
of course.
I have to think what's the way most people say it? Lemuria. There was a lot of that genetic manipulation going on there. That's the missing link, I think, in our evolution is the Lemurians and what they did to us. And so then we have now on planet Earth, we have genetically modified food. We have genetically modified humans. There are all sorts of experiments going on with our genes and our DNA that it doesn't make the 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news or any of the news stations. So we have all of that going on, and some of those upgrades are natural. So we have basically the natural way of doing things. Now we're talking about Atlantis. Atlantis was all about, should we do it the natural way? Should we let evolution happen? Or should we use technology and zap ourselves into the 5th dimension, or use technology to teleport rather than your consciousness? Consciousness doesn't need a machine to teleport. Doesn't need a machine to time travel. It makes for more interesting science fiction when you have a crazy science guy making a time machine and then people riding around in the time machine, but we don't need technology for that. But
we are the technology.
It takes longer.
Yeah.
That's what we don't like. Again, we're so
impatient.
And even I, in my little diatribe about traveling, I'm impatient.
Yeah, me too.
and not wanting to wait in line and have all my stuff combed through. But basically, so that was the schism on Atlantis. It's like, should we use all this technology? And that's what that's what the people that are referred to as the elite or the secret societies, Illuminati, whatever names you want to give them, that's what they're doing, really, is they're using the technology from fallen spacecraft that has been reverse engineered, and they have unlimited resources, unlimited funds. They're mining the asteroid belt, they're mining Mars, they're getting resources from all over to create technology that can do things that we're not quite ready yet to do with our consciousness. But here's the good part is that because we experience it, because you and I are experiencing this right now, which when, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid in the 1980s, this wasn't out there. There was no internet, so now we have this, and then eventually we won't even need this. But this helps us to see how things are possible that can happen. So nothing is good or bad, as Hamlet said. It's thinking that makes it so. And so we can use technology to help us build a bridge between our beliefs about what's possible, but we don't want the over-reliance that the transhumanists have in mind of like, oh, I'll just upload my consciousness into Google and then I'll live forever. We don't need that to live forever.
It's
But
such an important conversation. Yeah, I mean, it's just the word that comes to mind as you're speaking is just simulation. Like so much of our material creation of technology and infrastructure is effectively a simulation of what we are innately wired to produce, create, and experience just within our being, and to like such a, I mean, I would say a bigger, a grander capacity beyond anything we're even capable of imagining. And I have had the experiences of like the last few years. I've been active as, channeling, and I only recently started really kind of feeling fully in integrity with calling it that, maybe within the last year. Um, and and then I've only been practicing, say, the Akashic records, for example, for it's only been 3 years, and this linear human life timeline. And I've had the experience of like having telepathic communication, having like transcendent like teleportation experiences, or being in like that kind of a hypnotic trance just in meditating, where I'm, who knows, activating the Merkaba, or I don't know, wasn't doing it intentionally, but just having these experiences, quite profound sensory activating experiences of being, brought to other places, and or allowing my consciousness to travel throughout dimensions or whatnot. And inviting people into that experience and sharing, transmissions and whatnot. And you know and something that's been coming up a lot in my sessions as well has been this communication of like a message to most every single person I've worked with in the last few months, has been a message about very unique expression of intuitive gifts like coming online, and what to watch out for, what to notice, and how to just be prepared to support themselves when they start to hear ringing in their ear, when they start to feel pain in certain parts of their fingertips, when they start to have different body sensations that maybe they've never had before, because a certain new awareness is being made available to them to navigate through this very potent and increasingly powerful energetic experience that we're navigating.
so speaking of telepathy, I was thinking about we need to talk about ascension symptoms.
Of course. Well, we're just dialed in. My whole body's like vibrating right now, by the way. It's just like, just like, we're in the channeling mode.
Yeah, so ascension symptoms, what ascension symptoms did for me was they got me to slow down. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to get up at 5 and start playing and start building things with Legos,
Yeah.
and everyone else was sleeping. And so I was a doer and a goer ever since I was a kid. And ascension symptoms made me slow down. So what I was talking about before with like wanting everything now and using technology to get it faster versus like having to meditate for an hour or else you're just going to feel like crap. That was now I channel 3 to 5 hours a day. So it's like, I don't need to meditate as much. But back then when I was doing something completely different for work, I absolutely needed to meditate an hour or longer every day just to feel normal, just so I could go to the post office and ship the stuff that I had sold on eBay. Those
Totally. Third dimension.
former business, yeah. So those ascension symptoms really served me, because if I didn't meditate, I wouldn't be here right now doing what I'm doing if I didn't take the time to go within. And so when people talk about like not knowing what to do, not knowing what job they should have, just feeling completely uninspired by and uninterested in life as it is, the answer in those cases is always go within. Go within, because that's what or if you've got ascension symptoms to the point where your body doesn't feel good, or you've got what doctors would call chronic fatigue or Epstein-Barr or fibromyalgia, or there's probably even more names for it now, anemia, all sorts of names for basically ascension symptoms, which means that you better slow down and just go within and get in water if you can. I remember when I had my really bad ascension symptoms, I also had a membership to a spa. that had this huge hot tub that I could go in, and every time I'd go in there, I'd feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's chemicals in those things, and I wouldn't do that now. I'd find another way.
Get in that ocean, get in that earth, put your feet on the ground, connect to the, it's so simple and yet so healing. I'm sure people listening are like, I know this already, but for those like when I really tuned into this concept of earthing, putting your feet on the ground, and that actually even putting your head on the ground, with your head, with your heart above your head, like you're bowing to the earth and really placing your crown to the earth, it can have the effect of helping to like reset your whole energy field to be in more resonance and coherence with the field of the earth, right? It can just feel like instant grounding, calming, realignment, even super simple. And yet, how come I never learned that in school? Hello.
Yeah, and you think about why are we so obsessed with being by the ocean? Why are the houses right on the ocean? I mean, of course, it's beautiful, but at the same time, there's something about it that is calling us. There's
healing.
Yeah, being around the ocean, being in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less thought forms over there in the ocean.
Yeah.
Less human thought forms.
Yeah. Let's talk about this distinct, because this is another ascension symptom I personally have navigated. Well, I guess I'm always navigating it and supporting. I think I attract people that want, like, in terms of my clientele, whether that's through coaching or readings or retreats, I attract a lot of people who are very early on in their journey, in terms of awareness, but they tend to have like a depth of understanding of like, they know they're called to be of service. They know they're called to fulfill a purpose. They want deeper meaning. And they're ready to take ownership. They're ready to take responsibility. They're not bypassing anything. They're ready to like take that leap. Like they want to do that. And in that process, what I found to be a major ascension symptom, or like part of that kind of catalyst for that whole, awakening and embodiment of your purpose, of, more ease, maybe this higher dimensional consciousness, is to learn about, not identifying with every single emotion, with every single thought that comes up, with every single facet of every identity that you've ever used to survive, with all of these human conditionings. Really, that's all to say, simply put, it's emotional mastery. Like emotional mastery is what I believe we're being called upon to really integrate fully in order to not only receive these higher frequency, transmissions of knowledge, inspiration, creativity with which to create, genuinely new systems of being, new paradigms of infrastructure, I mean, all of it across the board. I call it heaven on earth, right? Really realizing that infinite potential together. And it's like the thing in the way of just being able to receive and be the love that you are, and be present in this perfect moment and trust the divine unfolding and be in that fifth dimensional space right now, because it's existing simultaneously right now. It's not somewhere I have to go get, right? It's not like, oh, the destination and then everything will be fine. So I don't need to pay my taxes. I don't need to deal with this stuff because I'll just wait and I'll ascend and go to the fifth dimension and everything will be fine. No, as you were saying, it's the journey. There is no end. And the fifth dimension is simultaneously existing in every single moment. And you actually have a choice to be there now, especially when you consciously choose to not identify with thoughts or old information manifesting as emotions or even energy popping up to try to have you make a story about it or identify with a wound or, all those things. So I would just love to know your thoughts on that and how you resonate.
I'm so glad you brought that up. There's definitely an order to things here. And you mentioned bypass for a minute there. And I would say that at one point on my journey, and I don't want to name names about like who I think is putting this sort of teaching out there, but there's definitely a teaching out there about basically just skip over the emotion. Like, don't worry about the emotion by changing thought. Okay, if you change a thought, you'll feel better. And and some people probably know who I'm talking about now, but
yeah, I do.
I'm not going to say any names because I benefited greatly from this, the teaching as well. But the part about don't feel that emotion,
Yeah.
or the lack of emphasis on the necessity of feeling that emotion, is a piece of certain spiritual teaching that's just missing, because you can't jump over it. You can't think your way out of it. A lot of people use drugs and alcohol at a certain point. I was one of them in my youth, to avoid feeling what I was feeling. All the anxiety and the fear and the self-loathing and all the things I didn't want to feel, I drowned in a bottle of whiskey for years. And there comes a point where you realize, oh, these emotions, they're meant to be felt. No one ever talked about emotions in my family when I was growing up. It wasn't part. You don't hear about the significance of it unless you're raised in one of these, really spiritually awakened families that brings you to one of these alternative schools where they're aware, like, oh, it's important that you feel your emotions. Don't call them crocodile tears and say cry baby and things like that. So yeah, we need to feel these emotions first, because when you when you feel it, you clear it. It's like a little ball of energy gets stuck somewhere inside of us. And like for me, fear is right here. Same. This is where I feel it. So I know that there's no, people who try to oversimplify things will say things like, oh, it's just your brain with chemicals in the brain. That's the only reason. When I started watching What the Bleep, I never finished watching it, because when someone came on and said that's all an emotion is this chemical, I was like, nope.
Nope, that's not true. Not true.
So this ball of energy that we have in us, that is a negative emotion. We have the positive ones too, but the negative ones that get stuck because of fear or judgment or trauma or whatever, they're stuck inside of us. We feel them, we process and clear them. We leave that space open then for creation, for activation of higher vibration, for all the things that we want to experience. But you can't get there without going through the emotion. It's like where we get that concept of purgatory or something, things like that. These things are based on something that's real, and you have to go through it. You have to do things in a certain order in order for it to work, essentially. All the stuff that we want. We all hear create your reality, and we think, okay, let's do it right now. But then eventually you're gonna hit one of these emotions. You're gonna bump right into it, and you're gonna have to work through it. You can't just create around it, or you can't just create your reality so that you get to avoid all the stuff over here that you don't want to deal with.
What's your take on unconscious mind versus conscious mind? And, because I myself am just like, okay, if I could just master my entire unconscious mind, then I'll create my reality, like right now. But this is a piece of it. This is a piece of it. And it ties into the emotional repression, right? Our unconscious wounding incurred from childhood or even other lifetimes, this energy that can manifest in the body, as like even karmic ties or just these programs, these very ancient, outdated programs that would have us think that I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm going to be alone if I shine too bright. What do I have to do to be better? What do I have to do to be seen? Whatever it is, those are some of the main ones. And sometimes this stuff is so unconscious. And it's not activated until a pain comes online, until a wound is like triggered and you're like, whoa, I do not feel good. Whoa, I'm acting like a child. Whoa, who is this person reacting like this? And, there's another level of mastery that it's emotional. It's also, I believe, intuitive. And I believe part of this initiation to fifth dimensional embodiment is requiring, well, this is just coming to me now, interesting. It's like this invitation for us to really be our own sovereign guides and to be our own to be our own healers, right? To really, as you said, look within, but to feel fully confident and empowered to know that you have every single thing that you need to navigate through that subconscious ocean, to navigate the feelings in your body that are wanting to be released, and to really, at the end of the day, hold yourself in all of the love that you have been looking outside of yourself for your entire life, right? It's like, you're the one.
Well, to answer your question about the subconscious or unconscious mind, I don't really think about it. And I think the reason, and as you were talking there, I think I was coming up with why I don't really think about it.
Yeah.
That if I'm feeling something, then the feeling will eventually, if I first of all, you don't want to think so much about your feelings as much as you want to feel them. But then after you're done feeling them and you're sitting there with someone who you trust, someone you want to talk with about it, your loved one or whoever, then you can start to get to the heart of where that's coming from. In other words, so there's underlying everything is a vibration. So the vibration attracts the thoughts, which are just swirling around in the ethers. It attracts the emotions, those balls of energy. It attracts the people, and it attracts the life circumstances. It's the vibration that's at the core of all of that. So even the subconscious thoughts and programs would be stemming from a vibration that we've got inside of us that we probably picked up at a very young age. Probably picked it up in school, in our homes when we were growing up, or from the television, however we picked it up. And then we're not aware that we signed up before we incarnated to deal with that particular vibration and all that comes along with it. But then when we awaken and we become aware, I've got this vibration going on inside of me, that's when you can do something about it. So you don't have to change your thoughts. You don't have to move to the top of Mount Shasta and surround the best feeling people and crystals and have the greatest job in order to get to that point where you shift your vibration so that wherever you are, and I'll talk about how you do that.
Yeah.
They're probably saying, well,
how do we do it now? I want to do that now. Give me that good vibration.
So yes, don't take all the action steps before you work on the vibration, which is essentially, if you think about the way that my guides describe it to people, the beings I channel, think about a guitar string that's running from the top of your crown chakra to the base of your root chakra. And if you pluck that string consciously, and you can feel a vibration. That's the great thing about a vibration, is that it's more sustainable than an emotion. Emotion's usually acute, which means it's like sharp pain or sharp joy, love. Like I look at my cat right now, and I just feel love, 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 love. But it doesn't really, like if I keep looking at her, it's not going to last forever. But I can activate a vibration of love if I focus on. And the guitar string's not a real thing. It's just a metaphor.
Analogy, yeah.
At how you do this, because you can see, we all know what a guitar string looks like as it vibrates, as it gets plucked. So you're wanting to pluck the different vibrations inside of you so that they're vibrating out and spreading out into your field and beyond and creating your reality. So you get that by focusing inward, by saying to yourself, like I was saying before, I know I feel fear here. Well, I discovered through going within, that I feel joy down here in my sacral. I'm like most people feel love in my heart. You know, I feel different vibrations in different places. And so I know where to go when I want to activate them. I know where in my body I want to focus and imagine myself plucking that guitar string and feeling that particular vibration moving out. And again, you can't just get there from being in a state of anger. You're not just going to go from anger to joy because you decided you were going to go within and find your joy center. You got to go through the anger first so you can become calm enough so that you can actually tune in to your vibration. So it's, I think, more important to tune into that than the thoughts, because the thoughts will come. They'll come when, and the people will come, and everything will come when you deal with that. Because like I was saying before, my ascension symptoms basically got me to go within and meditate my ass off for all those years so that I could eventually get to the point where now everything, I look around at my life and I'm like, holy shit, you know, what did I do right? I must have done something right, because it's way different, my life, than it was 8 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Muji. Do you know him?
Yeah.
I love him so much. He's so great. For anybody listening, definitely check out Muji on YouTube. And he has I'd love to visit him someday in Portugal. And he's really amazing. He's in Portugal, yeah. And a friend of mine just went to go see him for a while. And, you know, he's really great at instructing the practice that Daniel is alluding to, is describing. And it's really I did it this morning and it was just so beautiful. It's just like really dropping into that, you know, I am the loving awareness of all of these thoughts, and choosing to cultivate that vibration of loving presence and loving kindness with yourself first and foremost. And really just, yeah, it's like we're building muscles here, you know. And if Ascension over these past few years, God, I mean, yeah, my journey has really been, I think it started when I was born. But then it started in other lifetimes. But it started when I think my awakening really started when I got sober and I stopped drinking, doing drugs to like shut everything down, you know.
That kind of coincided with mine too.
Yeah.
Before, but a little bit before I stopped, but I was doing it very rarely at that time.
Yeah, because when you finally at that point too, it was like the universe, kind of like how you were forced to like start meditating just to like be normal, to like go to the post office. Totally relate to that. I had to learn all the sorts of things to just be a human being who carries within her a high capacity of like feeling and intuitive sensitivity. And I really didn't know, I had never learned to be like, to operate as myself, really. And wow, yeah, I was always trying to operate like someone else, trying to fit into the insane world. I was like, this doesn't feel right. This is crazy. So okay, wow. Is there anything else that you feel called to share about just what you're noticing, maybe even in your own journey, your own practice, your own experience, some cool messages that have been coming through? What feels alive for you?
Oh, wow. What is the new thing? I know there's something.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that one of the other things that's pretty consistent in the teachings from the beings I bring through is that, like you were saying, we need to learn how to become aware of our vibration and how to master the vibration part of it. I also think we need to learn how to receive.
Yes.
And just think about what that means on a physical level. First of all, like if somebody gives you something, someone wants to give you something, and you immediately feel like rejecting it. Because for whatever reason, you don't feel worthy, you don't want to owe that person something. You feel like maybe there's strings attached, whatever it is, that you don't want to accept something from someone else. So these higher frequency beings, so I was talking earlier about the sun, the earth, the photon belt, the ETs, and then the higher frequency beings, the beings like Michael and Mary and Yeshua and Kuan Yin and all these awesome high frequency ascended master beings and collectives like the Arcturian Council. They want to give us stuff too. Source, our higher self, our oversoul, our guides, they all want to give us stuff, but how often do we ask versus how often do we actually sit or lie down and say, okay, I'm ready to receive. I'm open. Whatever is appropriate, whatever is in service to me right now, just I'm here. And then visualize yourself, if you have to, as a flower opening up. Uncross your legs, put your palms up, really feel it showering down upon you. All that you've summoned, not only in this lifetime, but in those other lifetimes from before we were. And not only what you've been asking for, but you can receive for the entire collective. Say, okay, I know that everyone out there is asking. I'll be the one to receive it and ground it in my physical body, ground it into Mother Earth, make it available through the grid lines so that everyone can have it. And I think that's another reason why, that's a reason, I don't think we talked about this yet, why there's spiritually awakened people all over the planet in places where they feel completely isolated, like they're the only one. We need people everywhere. We need the ground crew all over the planet to spread this. And so if everyone have like a moment or two in a day where they're just stopping and saying, I'm ready to receive, and practice the art of that, you know, we could potentially do a lot more good and initiate a lot more change in our lives and include the collective too.
Yes, thank you. And just allowing it, the art of allowing, the art of receiving. I have a whole chapter in my book about that, right? For everyone, but empaths. Receiving like it's your birthright, like you're built to receive, and asking for precisely what you want. And really, you know, that was a message that came in today and the reading too, was like just, and really this overwhelming feeling, you know, communicated by guides, and I believe, you know, definitely some higher dimensional beings, of just like really this feeling of so much love and compassion being poured over all of us all the time. And really with this attitude of like, you guys don't have to work so hard. You've been working so hard for so long. And I can identify this part of my soul work so hard and is so impatient. And I just want to like, I want to make the things happen that I know are going to happen. Like I've seen it all already. I know I know what I'm here for, and I want to make it happen now. And I'm impatient, and it can be, you know, an egoic drive for success or ambition, but it's also like a deep, deep calling to serve and to help and to like love and to awaken people to this capacity that we all have to love. And, you know, it's just such a great reminder that we're not alone. It's not up to us to like make anything. God knows we're actually not making anything happen, that we're co-creators. And we have really, I mean, it's like, I feel like we all have, each and every person on the planet has like their own like magnificent team. Not any one team is the same. And I see this in the readings that I do, and I'm sure you do too. It's like every single person, it's so beautiful. It's like we are all so dynamic and unique and multidimensional. Like we're so different. And we have like a completely unique team that no one else has, of like infinite beings, some of which we're probably not even able to fully connect with or be aware of or, you know, communicate with right now. And yet there's the feeling of this presence. And I personally don't always tune into it, knowing this to be true. I will still be in moments at times in my human life trying to carry the weight alone, having difficulty asking for help from people and guides, and feeling the sense of like, yeah, like not wanting to burden anybody and feeling like I do need to work really hard and figure it out. I do need to find out. I need to find out whatever the answer is and do it. You know,
Exactly. That's the old way.
yeah, it's really it's a dance. It's like that oscillation of remembering and then trying the old way again and then remembering. It's like, come on.
Yeah, we get caught up in
Hmm.
so much thinking and so much doing and so much ignoring of what we're feeling until we get to that point where we realize, oh, what we're doing is not working. It's just not.
Hmm. Wow. I feel so grateful to share with you here. And I feel like this will be a recurring exchange that we do and we'll tune in more. And thank you so much for your service and just your insight and for being here on planet Earth at this amazing time. It's a wild time. It's so funny. For everybody that is tuning in and wants to get to know more about Daniel and his amazing offerings, I mean, I personally have done a channeling session with him where we connected with, I believe it was like the Palladian Council and confirmed some really great information for me about, Palladian lifetime of mine. And oh, it was just so beautiful, so wonderful. And I know you do that work with so many people that are just so fortunate to receive that, very validating like assurance, right? That it's like a validation of what you already know to be true. And
Yeah.
it's like you give so much permission. And I know this about my readings as well. It's like we're not telling you anything that you don't already know. It's just like validating this truth that maybe you feel you need permission to
Mm.
fully acknowledge.
Mm.
Yeah. So for anybody that's looking into that, getting some time with Daniel, I highly recommend it. And he has some amazing courses and downloads, amazing website. And tell us about your book. Tell us about the vision for your beautiful book and where people can
Well,
find that.
it's like I didn't set out to create another book. I created a book a year and a half ago. I've channeled messages from 8 different beings: Ophelia the fairy, all the ones you mentioned, the Hathors, the founders, the creators, 2 of the archangels, Pleiadians, and then Kuan Yin. And I put that one out, and it's on Amazon, and I sell the ebook, and you can get the Kindle. And then I just put together a new book, which is only messages from the Arcturian Council. So it's 240.
Mm,
And this time I sorted them, instead of last time sorting them by the different beings, I sorted them by different topics. So there's
mm.
chapters, and I have the ebook available now, and I'm waiting for Amazon to get the paperback version on their site, and hopefully that I can announce that soon. But basically, if you go to my website, danielscranton.com, and you subscribe, then you'll know about all my classes and the weekly thing that I do with a different entity each week of the month, and all the recordings I make of light languages, and and the daily messages, which
Daily messages, got to get those. They're
book,
amazing.
the book is comprised of those. It's a compilation of the daily messages
Mm,
that continue to come through me every night, and I post on
mm.
my website, and the email goes out every day. And so, yeah, it's
So beautiful.
there's a lot out there, and there's over 1,500 of them on YouTube as well. These messages I make into little videos with like a picture instead of me.
Yeah, they're so beautiful and they're all over the place. You were just saying how people like repurpose those all over the place. So your book is like all over the world already because like there's so many other websites hosting it. That's so cool. The last thing I want to ask you, this just came to me, is so given like where we're at, Ascension, energy updates, all the stuff we're going through, what are you just like celebrating about yourself, about your life, about this experience? Like what is the thing that really helps you tap into that vibration of joy and love at like the deepest level? What is that for you?
Well, it's hard to choose one thing. Um,
I just realized how that question's pretty broad.
There's so much I have to be grateful for, and my wife and I every night we talk about what we're grateful for and what we're celebrating and stuff
Oh,
before we go to
that's
bed.
nice.
So she's a big part of my life. We're almost married now for 2 years. My cat,
Oh,
my house. This is my office that we're in that I painted blue, um, and the house that we have on Maui, of all places. You know, it's like there's just so much for me to be grateful for, and um, just continued connection. You know, just continually feeling more connection and just enjoying my own growth and seeing how, like you said, how what I'm doing is impacting other people. It's mind blowing. If I ever really just stop and take that type of inventory in a day, it's amazing.
Yes, it is. And the real question I wanted to ask you also is, what's the deal with like beings becoming more like, it's weird. This is the last thing, I promise. I've been getting, I've been feeling like, and maybe this is the event or the shift or whatever we're going to call it, but it's like, it's something's going on where it's like disclosure and there's going to be,
Oh
it
yeah,
feels, yeah, it feels like there are certain beings that are going to be like intentionally, like they're already communicating or strategizing about how to, make themselves be known in a very visible, like third dimensional context, that they will be, doing some kind of a like grand entrance. What's going on?
yeah, we're definitely being prepared for that. And those of us who can handle it, who are awake, are having more of those types of experiences through either channeling or seeing ships in the sky, or
Yeah,
the dreams,
it's in
or
my dreams for sure.
even the waking experiences. Um, it's definitely something that we're being prepared for, so that we are comfortable having these ETs around, so that we can co-create with them and be part of a galactic family.
Yeah, I love that. That has really been coming in like the family, that these beings that we're maybe conditioned to think of as like aliens and they look a certain way, that they're really a lot of these beings, a lot of these like other civilizations, we share a lot of the same, like even in certain circumstances, like DNA, and that we're actually like literally relatives. Like they're literally, they will look like us.
Yep, yep. So they're blending in, those ones that look like us.
Yeah, they're already here. Surprise! That's so fun. And last thing, I just watched this great movie called, what's it called? First Contact. It's the Bashar movie. Did you watch
Oh,
that?
okay. I haven't seen it, no.
It's so beautiful. I highly recommend it. You would love it, I think. It talks a lot about the family and about, it's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. So beautiful. We've had an amazing quantum download session. And Daniel, I thank you so much for everything again. And I'm so excited to support you in your beautiful book and your work, and someday to meet in Maui perhaps, or LA, and who knows where. And I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yay. Beautiful.